Hi, I'm Jack Davis. I'm under a waterfall. I'm in a valley. And what I want to speak about is the spiritual journey, the consciousness expansion process, this feeling of climbing a mountain and sort of the stages and the steps that come with it and what I've been able to learn and pick up as I've consciously engaged with what you could call awakening and what you could call ascension. Now, I do want to be clear that ultimately there is no separate self. And the entire journey that you go on is kind of illusory. But to me, it's part of the creative process of life that we all do have this, let's say, soul level identity that's going through a series of incarnations and is picking up along the way. Let me start by just grounding this in our lived experience. We're all born and we all spend the first few years of our life, maybe the first few decades of our life even, kind of locked into a plan. And often the plan is not something that we've actually created ourselves. It's something that we've inherited from the world around us. So there are the two main driving forces that we start with, and they are our biology, which has come from, well, billions of years of evolution, but also society itself, the expectations, the needs of our time, getting a job, building a family, whatever it might be. And the first shift that you're likely to go through is kind of realizing that those rules needn't apply to you and that you have the choice as your human self, as kind of this higher human self, to actually decide, you know what, I'm going to do what I want. Maybe that puts you on a more creative path. Maybe that puts you on a more, I guess, entrepreneurial path so you can really take charge of your reality and have more freedom and autonomy in your life. And if this is what interests you, I'm going to suggest that you look into my quantum healing sessions and you engage with me on that level, and you look at manifestation and you look at how to support your ability to better create from that sense of a higher human self. But that is just one option on the spiritual pathway. I want you to think of it like this. This human self that we're playing, it's a costume. And there are many layers to the actor that's playing this human self. That initial stage of kind of ego drive and will that you can step into, it's kind of like the character becomes more awake. So in this case, it would be Jack moving through life passively, doing what he initially planned to do, and then awakening to the point where Jack is going to make better decisions. That's cool. That's great. There's a lot to be gained there. But I want to offer this other option for you. And this is where you step into your identity, not as a human self in this lifetime, but your identity is the actor that's playing the character of this human self. We're not going all the way to pure consciousness and non-duality. We're going one step deeper. And this is often called the soul because it's the aspect of you that hasn't just played this character. It's played many different characters before in different lifetimes. And it's learned a lot of lessons. It's picked up a lot of skills. It has its own dispositions. And you can actually tap into those. And the Akashic records is just the name that we give in this reality, on Earth, in this lifetime, to this library of knowledge that exists beyond space and time. And you have access to, let's say, every single role you've ever played. And you can draw on those experiences and bring them into this lifetime. So you're no longer living and creating as the human, as Jack, as even the higher version of Jack that can take charge and co-create with the universe. You're actually starting to bring in what I will call your higher self. To me, the higher self isn't the higher human self. It's the higher spiritual self. It's the higher self that's had so much experience throughout so many different lifetimes. And it took me years to warm to this. And I want to help you get there faster, because tapping into these aspects of yourself is going to help you see how much of your limitation is really just coming from biology, and stepping into your, I would say, true identity, not the identity you picked up along the way, the identity that you've built over lifetime. And it is wild. And I would say what really opened me up to this, I did begin with, meditation, spiritual practice, Kriya. I looked into the chakras, I studied the science behind them, but it was my first Akashic records reading that really blew my mind and opened me to the notion that this stuff was real. Now, look, if some of the language bothers you and you don't feel comfortable with some of the ways that this is described, I understand. And I want to remind you that it's just language. What we're talking about is just the history of your actor. What other roles has your actor performed? What other places has your actor been? What other things has your actor experienced? And as a practitioner, I'm not obsessed with you learning everything you need to know about your other roles. What I want to help you do is play this role as well as you can without the limitations of the character and with your full potentiality. And it's going to allow you to manifest way more effectively than you could if you were just limited to your human identity. There's so much that I'm doing in this lifetime as Jack that I wouldn't be able to do if I was still identified as that, or the passive human who's just influenced by my biological karma and by society, but even the Jack that is trying to do something and has a plan as Jack, it's a very limited. Often what I'm trying to do now is tap into my higher self that intended to incarnate as Jack. And then beyond that, there are times when you kind of take your hand off the wheel completely and there is an impersonal will to the universe, to pure consciousness that just steps in. But that impersonal will has so much more potential to it if you've activated more of these layers of your spiritual self. It is, I'm going to go back to the canvas metaphor. It is like ultimately we are the canvas, we are the brush, we are the paint stroke itself, the paint, and we are the artist. But if you activate all of these parts of your identity, suddenly the creation itself is so much more empowered. It's not just a pencil, limited by the pencil. Suddenly it's a brush stroke with all kinds of watercolors available, all kinds of, mediums for creation. It's a good metaphor for you to think about, like, what is the point of all of this? Yes, it's about expanding and experiencing things and helping the world. But to me, there is a part of life that is art. It is experience. It is creation, and it is about creativity. So yeah, we've got problems to solve. We've got things to create. We've got things to experience. And it's all of those things together. And what I feel from these high dimensions of consciousness, what I feel when I'm in these higher states, is that the universe at large is looking at what we're doing on Earth and is concerned that we're going to lose the ability to continue creating on this canvas. There's so much more out there in life than just Earth. So we don't need to be concerned about life ending or losing consciousness. Human consciousness is just one wonderful thing in creation. But it would be a shame to lose this canvas that we've spent so much time creating and to lose all of the art that we've spent so much time creating. What I'm being invited to talk about now is the Akashic records. This is where you can access all of the knowledge that you need to access, that you need to know in order to really play this character as well as you can. You can kind of think of it like this. When you incarnate, there is a bit of a script that's been created. Now, I don't want you to think that everything's predetermined. It's not. But there is a bit of an outline. There is a sense of, okay, in Act 1, you'll do this. In Act 2, you'll do this. And there's this big climax in Act 4 that we're really building up to. But it's important to understand that the universe, the creation, God, whatever you want to call it, it's more of a jazz musician than a mathematician. And so you always have the freedom to improvise. There might be key scenes that the universe wants you to fulfill at certain stages of your life. But you can always go about those scenes however you like. It does take time to get to the point where you're conscious of the Akashic records and you're open to the possibility that it might benefit you in some way and benefit the universe in some way. So if you're here, congratulations. My offer is crazy. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm just trusting what's been sort of sent my way. Free session, Akashic records, includes a call with me. You can ask me any questions you like. We'll get on the same page sort of to do with your energy, what you're looking for, what you relate to, where you want to go moving forward. And then we'll jump into your session. You'll receive a free recorded Akashic records reading, and we'll just trust the process from there. Hope to see you there soon. The link is in the description. Check it out.